Further, most of our budget is education and social services, so we can't have bodies lying in the streets. We have the state of Minnesota has a legal obligation to provide an K through 12 education to people, but we also have to look at the salaries of what some public employees are making. I work for myself, so I have to work very hard to make money and pay taxes, and I do not get a set salary every month. We have we have a basketball coach at the University of Minnesota who makes 14 times what the governor of the state makes. We have school administrators who make princely sums. We have people at the University of Minnesota who make in excess of $600,000 a year. We have public salaries that are very, very high. I would propose an immediate salary cap and freeze that no one who's working for the government, if they get the benefits, the government benefits, we pay, my wife and I spend about $850 a month on health insurance. You don't make any more than the governor makes. That should be about what you make, and if you're not happy with that, you can do something else. I also propose a state bank. I can talk about that some later. I think that would provide a lot of benefits to our state. North Dakota has one, and it's like the only state with a budget surplus, and mostly it's as a result of their state bank.
Thank you. Leon Lilly.
Thank you. I mean, if you look at some of the ads that are running on TV, you would think that the legislature and the governor in the last few years have not made any cuts. Just to be clear, we've made $3 billion in cuts in the last couple of years. We are facing a $6 billion deficit. Those are real numbers. And it's a real problem. The state is different than the federal government. We can't just print money. We have to end up with a balanced budget. So I think it's something that is good and will force our hand, and it's been a good thing for our state, and I think our country should consider it. But I look at kind of a one-third model, one-third reforms, one-third cuts, and one-third revenue. So what I mean by that is looking at reforms that we might see out there that we could possibly see some, by consolidating perhaps, or just reforms that you can look at that could help bring down costs. I would look at certainly revenue, and I personally support the tax proposals that Mr. Dayton's bringing forth. I think it kind of is a Minnesota value that everybody should pay the fair or the same rate. I just think it's a value that the people in my district would value, and I think it's the right thing for Minnesota. And I think we're going to have to look at more cuts. So I think through a balanced approach, we should be able to achieve it.
Thank you. And Chuck Weger.
Yes, like most states, Minnesota is looking at a projected deficit. We will get it resolved. I support a balanced approach, and that means, as most of the candidates have indicated, that means making cuts. That is inevitable. We're going to have to make at least $2 to $3 billion in cuts. We're also going to have to look at various reforms. We're also going to need to look at increasing revenue. If you support our schools, if you support health human services, people in nursing homes, assisted living, programs that bring people into the homes where you have a personal care attendant, other services that are right here in our community, you need to be compassionate and provide every opportunity for continuing those programs, and I'm not for cutting those. For the increase in revenue, I have voted several times. It's not a secret. I voted several times for a fourth-tier income tax. If you have an adjusted gross income, that would be at $200,000. That maybe your gross is at $250,000 or so. In fairness, that rate should be consistent with others. I know there's concern by some that it would make us less likely for some of those individuals to be here. I don't think so. We have so many Fortune 500 companies, and we are very competitive, and I would support revenue in that area. I don't support an increase or applying it to the clothing tax. I think it's regressive. I would put it at that fourth tier. And for shared services, government working more together, cities, counties, school districts, we need to look at more efficiencies. We have too many units of government. We need to look at additional potential for mergers. And I've made that very clear throughout my public service life for a number of proposals on this.
Thank you. So I'll now give a chance for some follow-up. Mark Jenkins.
Yep.
30 seconds.
Yep. Representative Lilly did talk about cuts that the state makes. Unfortunately, many of those cuts are really just cuts to local government aid, mortgage value tax credits, and not paying the school districts the money that was promised them. Those cuts may help the state balance its budget. It doesn't help you. Those monies end up getting shifted to your property taxes, and where they're balancing their budget ends up in your budget, your wallet, eventually. Where I think the state's willing to increase property tax, or where we can increase taxes at the state, is going to keep your budget balanced, because it'll keep the state from dipping into the city's coffers. Thank you.
Thank you. Joseph Polinchek.
One place where I think we could save some money is we're paying our political people money to stay in hotels. My idea was to build a hotel down by the Capitol that we could put our legislative people in during the session. We could use it for other government business people, not just the legislature, but anybody could go in there, get a room, and then when the session is out, we could rent it to the general public.
Thank you. Nathan Hansen.
I don't think borrowing more money from bankers is a good idea. I advocate a state bank in a fractional reserve banking system. We would just mandate, like North Dakota does, that all dealings with the state of Minnesota would be deposited with the state bank. From that, under the fractional reserve banking system and the Federal Reserve System that we have, you can lend out 12 times more money than you have. We can provide low-interest student loans for students who want to go to college, 1%, 2%, whatever the cost of administration is, and many other benefits.
Thank you. Leon Lilly, rebuttal.
The cuts were real, and there was a shift that happens. And I had a conversation with a couple of our school board members, and they used the term "we're tired of getting shifted on." And so you're right about that. It's a tool that we were kind of forced to do, given the situation with the governor. You said, using your baseball analogy, the right field, left field, and it was a shot we had to do down the middle. So I think it's the best play that we could make given the situation. So.
Thank you. And Chuck Uygur.
Thank you. And I'd just like to put that in perspective, what Representative Lilly said. We did pass revenue increases which would have avoided this shift. We didn't want this. I was in daily contact with our area school board and a number of people, and we protested this on the Senate and the House floor, but the governor chose to not negotiate, to actually in an earlier session to unallot, and we know that was ruled illegal in court. So, bottom line, we tried, but if a person doesn't negotiate, it makes it difficult, and that's what we got.
Thank you. So on the same vein, there's a lot of concern about employment, needless to say. So what would you do if elected to help create and keep jobs in your district? And we will start this question with Joseph Polinchek.
Okay, I'm a big believer in labor unions. We can make openings. We can make employment openings out here if we. First of all, we could, and this is kind of getting ahead of the game maybe. If we build a Viking stadium and make it self-sufficient, that'll put a bunch of people to work. After the stadium is built, that'll put more people to work working in the stadium. The amount of the number of people needed, I have no idea. But you've got the people who build the actual structure. You've got people who build the seats and all the rest of that stuff. So we could put probably 2,000 or 3,000 people to work. And then if we built a casino to help finance the stadium, that would put people to work before and or during and after. the little businesses that would be around there, like, you know, we talk about like Joe Sensor's Bar downtown and these places that are around the Twin Stadium like that, they're just hopping during ball games and down around the Target Center. So if we could build, like I say, if we could build a self-sufficient casino and a self-sufficient ballpark, we can make probably 3,000 or 4,000 jobs in the area.
Thank you. Nathan Hansen.
Couple different things. The first thing we need to do is start talking about what the root of the problem is, and then look at there are limited things we can do on a state level. We have a federal Congress that has betrayed us and sold us down the river. Of the TARP money that people from both parties voted for, the government obligation, according to the government office overseeing TARP, is the potential obligation is $23.7 trillion. That's 1,000 billion. When Bank of America was forced to take over Merrill Lynch, they received in TARP money, which is money we borrowed from bankers to give to bankers, $50 billion to do that. Of that $50 billion, $33 billion was given as bonuses to Merrill Lynch executives that year. The budget for our state is $32 billion. People of both parties voted for it. We have a problem at the federal level, and we need to start talking about it. On a state level, we need to have a state bank. We need to have a state bank in this system so we can lend out more, so we can take advantage of this system that these bankers use. And there's a little more nuance to that. You might want to Google Money Masters on Google Video. As far as central planning to create jobs from the state government, the state's obligations are very limited. They are education, they are infrastructure. The fact is we do have serious infrastructure problems in this state, and we can't lie about it. We're blowing up bridges and killing people overseas, and our bridges are collapsing here. Our water systems are old. We have serious infrastructure problems. With a state bank, we wouldn't have to use interest. We could issue our own bonds and do our own infrastructure and put people to work, making our communities better places to live. Water, roads, education, these are all important things. The education of Minnesota is a real thing. I lived in the South for 2 years in Florida, and everybody I met, greatly, it was amazing how many people you met that respected the education of somebody who was from Minnesota.
Thank you. So again, what would you do to create and keep jobs in the district? Next person to address this issue is Leon Lilly.
Thank you. Jobs are important in our community. I think education is kind of a silver bullet. It sounds a little hokey to keep saying that, but I really believe it. Historically, that's why we've had so many great businesses in Minnesota, 3Ms and just on and on, Cargill, and just, they've chose Minnesota. It's not, I mean, you've seen the last few days, the weather, and of course we're going to get some snow coming in soon, but it's, it's not our weather, it's not those sort of things why they've chosen Minnesota to have all these big Fortune 500 and other companies. It's our educational system. It's starting with early childhood and the opportunities and the value that that brings, and getting kids off to a good start in a K-12 education and higher ed, and even more so now today with retooling as people find themselves maybe 55 or whatever the age without a job. So retooling is so important. I would look at bonding. I would look at a big bonding bill. It creates some jobs. We have a lot of our trades friends that are sitting on the bench. It gets them off. But it's not just about that. It's about a little bit what Nathan Hansen just said. With the infrastructure, it's so vital. That's important to our businesses and moving goods and services around Minnesota and those sort of things. As a legislator, I serve as Vice Chair of Commerce and Labor, and I've had many opportunities to meet with business leaders around our state, with 3M quite often, right down the road. Of course, Delta, that's who I work for. They are a major employer. Other employers right here in our area, St. John's and Health East System, have visited with the issues that are important to us and help shape what policies will help them have the workforce that they need for the future in Minnesota. So,
thank you. Chuck Uyghur.
Okay, for creating, maintaining jobs, that's the #1 priority. And we as legislators need to continue to listen, to communicate with area businesses as well as their leaders and statewide as well. Keeping in mind, we are in a global economy. For that application, most recently with Oakdale, for example, we put together legislation that we all worked on, consensus developed to provide city officials, business leaders, the tools for redeveloping Oakdale Mall and the Tanners Lake area, which is blight. And how embarrassing in the shadow of 3